we're going to be creating the boots. So I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to duplicate the base mesh. So I'll select this base mesh and I'm going to do a duplicate of that. So I'm going to be extracting the boots out of the duplicates. Okay, so I'm going to hide the main base. So this duplicates. So let me kind of check the length of these boots first. Okay, so the boot should be roughly this should be the new parts. Then the boot should be roughly ending roughly around here. So Shift F to go to the wireframe mode. Maybe I'll just, let's see. I'm going to be using the slice curve kind of slice out where the boot should be starting from. So I'll need to, let me just go one subdivision level higher. So around, okay, then I'll delete the higher subdivision level. Okay, there's some layers in there. Let me just merge. Let's see if I can. Okay, I need to measure the layers. So I need to go to the higher subdivision level. So I hit D to go to the higher subdivision level. I still have the main base. This is just a duplicate. Then I will do a big hole. You can go to the lower subdivision level now. Okay, this somewhere around here should be fine. Subdivision level here, subdivision level 2 should be fine. I'll delete I on this. Then Shift F to go to the wireframe mode. Let me just put this by the side. So I want to be ending the boot around here. So I'll Control Shift and I'll click on the brush and I'll use the slice curve. And I'll just draw like a straight line around here. Something like here should be fine. So I have multiple subdivision level on. So let me just delete the lower subdivision level. Let me just claim this from this angle instead. So it's a bit straighter from this angle. So the boot should be somewhere, let me see, somewhere around here should be fine. Okay. So Control Shift click on this, control click Shift again on it. So I invert that selection. Then I would, let me just go to polygroups and just do an auto groups in here. Okay, then Control Shift click on this. Let me isolate this completely. So this should be like our base for the boots. Okay, I see some corrections to be made on this though. So I'll start smoothing things out on this and fill up some of all this. The fingers, I need to smooth out most of these fingers out. So let me see. There are two ways I can do this though. I can use the trim curve brush to kind of curve out a shape in there that's kind of closed out automatically. But let me just try using the deformations tab. Let me kind of do a smooth, a polish by group. Ctrl W to give them the same poly group. Let's do a proper smooth. Let me turn off these dots and I'll do this again. Okay, so I think I might just have to end up cutting that out. So let me just make sure the display is on double. Then I can use, let me get this from the top view like so. Then I can use the, let's see which one. Let's use the clip curve rather. Clip curve. Holding, clicking on Alt to kind of make a curve around there. Something like this. Something like this should be fine. Okay. I also need to dynamize this too. I'll do dynamize for this. But let me just do a mirror and word first. So I'll go to move topologic and just do a mirror and word. Current. Okay, I need to delete hidden first. To delete hidden, mirror and word. Okay. So Shift F. So I have something like this now. So now I need to go back to the main base mesh and kind of review that. Go out of isolate. But for the main base mesh, let me just select that. Shift F. I'll need some part of the leg. So let me just do a. Let me just drag out a max somewhere around here. Then Control W to kind of give that a particular poly group. Then isolate that poly group. Then I'll go back to the, let me just rename this to boots. Let me rename this to, just to keep things organized, boots base. Okay, that's fine. So now I can, let me just go in there and then isolate this. Shift F. So smoothing this out kind of gives you this weird deformation in there. So I might just have to do a dynamesh for this. So under geometry tab, go to dynamesh. Probably turn off the blur. You don't need to keep polish on. Okay, let's dynamesh this. Let's see what that gives us. No, that's way too low. Let me increase this up a bit more, around 360. Fair enough. Fair enough. At least that kind of fix the issue where the topological issue we had in here by cutting off the fingers. It also closed the hole in here. So let me just click on this to isolate that. To invert that, then I'll just delete hidden. I don't need to have one hole in there. So I think this is a good base to start working with. Let me kind of smooth things out like so. Then I'll use the move, either the move topological brush or move brush, to kind of push this out in place. Let's use the move topological brush instead. Okay, mirror and word, turn on symmetry for this so both sides are affected. So let's go out of isolation. Maybe I can even start by inflating this just to give us a head start. So let me just try and push this out some more. And then let me hide the finger and hide the eyeball. I think this one should have double-sided on also. Okay. Double-sided. Let me select that. Select this boots again. I want to just try and push things out before inflating, just to have them roughly in the position before inflating it. Okay, somewhere around here. Just make sure the reference is here as a guide. So you have these parts a bit, you have something like so. Okay, think it's safe now to inflate. Let me just do transparency. Let me just see how far this is. Yeah, that should be fine. So those don't inflate now. Do an inflate. Yeah, something like so. Okay. Something like this should be fine. Then we can start modifying this as we go. Now just move this back out. This for the same also at the back. So I need to do a lot of fixing I need to do here, but for a base mesh, I think this is coming out quite nicely. So we just need to get the proportional silhouette of the entire shape in there. Once we do that, then the work becomes much easier for us. The frontal part should be a bit more pointed. I'm gonna space this out like so. So this part needs to pinch in a bit more. Somewhere like that should be fine. Then let's kind of average it with the reference image. This part should be smoothed out, so I'll just go to use the smooth tool. Let me just zoom this back out a bit. Then use the smooth tool to just smooth this back down. Maybe that smooth is just way too intense. Let me take it down. So something like this should be fine. Okay. The frontal part should be a bit more pointed. Somewhat like so. I think we're getting the silhouette now. Because this particular boot is going to be is this leather boot is going to be tighter to his, it's going to be directly on his leg, so it should feel more like clothes, though having some kind of leather material to it. Just trying to capture the overall silhouette of the shape of the foot of the boots. The backside will still need some work though. So let's kind of use our trim. Let's use our gauge polish to kind of polish up the edge a bit more. Just to have something like so. Okay. I'm still going to be adding a different poly group for that though. Then this back part needs to still feels a bit wet, so I'm going to use the clay builder brush, kind of block something in there. Something like so should be fine. Okay. Just kind of block this around the boots. Just trying to eliminate some of those anatomical structures of the ankles and the boots. The boots should feel a bit freer. Okay. And I'm going to round this up also on this. Let me just kind of continuing this on around like so, just to have some kind of angle to it. Yeah, something like this that goes across. maybe even more, maybe a bit higher than the way it is right now. Okay. Okay. And I can gently smooth this out. If that's way too intense, let me just take down the brush a bit more. Something like this. I still want to maintain that sharp, that angle to it. I'm not completely satisfied with the back yet. So with the, I think with the max lasso, you can select somewhere around here like so. You can see there's actually an issue here. This part needs to be a bit straighter. Let me see if I can find a reference for that. Okay, you can see how a bit more angle this is, a bit more straighter at the back. Not completely straight though, but just to have something that's, let me just, that pushes back out a bit more. So let me just use the move topological brush and try to average that somewhere around here. Now use the clay build up brush to kind of do something like so. Probably even the trim dynamic brush and kind of block this out. Let me check how that looks. Yeah, it looks a bit much better now. This part still feels a bit wet though. Okay. Once we get the silhouette right, okay, we can actually use this in here now to kind of capture the silhouette even properly. So see how we need to, if we kind of use this now, see how we need to kind of average in between here and here. So maybe I will just push, maybe I will just push this a bit closer like so. Something like this should be fine. Kind of get this angled a bit more. As much as I want this to be as tight as possible to the guy's heel, I still need to make sure the overall proportions are fine. So let me just move this out. Okay, I think the overall proportion is almost there. Just a few more tweaks and we should be there. Just trying to get the angle of this. Something like this should be fine. Let me check the silhouette again. Okay, close enough. Apart from this fit that is coming out of this, so let me just, this particular angle still feels a bit weird. This particular angle still feels a bit weird. I want to try to average this out. Probably something like this should be fine. Okay. Okay. I still need to round this up just a little bit. Okay. Alright. maybe I'll just do something like, if I can just round this up. Okay, that's a bit too much. Just adding more roundness to it. Okay, something like so should be fine. I'm still maintaining the sharp angles at the corners though. Just trying to round this up, make this feel more rounded. And I'll smooth all of this back down. Okay, I'll just blend this back down. So let me go back to the main reference image and then figure out what we have in there. Okay. Now this particular boot still has another extra layer of leather covering it. But we need to create the inner base that goes all the way in here. You can see it inside of this, which is this outer part here. So that's what we're trying to actually create. Okay. Then I don't think this sole has any additional height to it apart from just this flat surface here. So I'm just going to flatten this surface a bit more. So I'm using the max lasso tool. I'll just max out somewhere around here. Ctrl W to give that a poly group. Okay. So I'll just select this part or max that, invert that selection. Then I'll use my gizmo. Maybe I would just, yeah, something like this should be fine. Then I'll squash this in like so. Just drag this in just to make it a bit flatter on the at the bottom parts, and push that even down a bit more. Shift F. Okay, close enough. Then I can, if I can even, yes, then I'll just dynamash this. So the dynamash for this, it should be fine. You can see how the angles are there more. We have more sharper angle to it now. But the angles are just too sharp though, so we need to smooth that out. So I'm going to increase the intensity of the brush. And then just smooth that back out. Make it feel a bit more rounded. You can see how a bit more rounded it is. It still has the angle, but it feels a bit more rounded. Okay, maybe not too much. Let me kind of isolate this, max this out before the selection, so that part is not really affected when I smooth. Now I have a better angle for the silhouette. You can see the back heel silhouette now is a bit better there. Okay. This is actually a good base to work with. The feels more rounded, but let me just kind of smooth this out a bit more. Okay, instead of doing that, let me just add some fleshiness around that. Something like this to kind of hide that sharp edge you have on the corners. So I'm basically using the clay build-up brush to kind of add some roundedness to it, and I will smooth that back down. Yeah, something like this will work just fine. So this is actually a good base for the boots. But this one should be a bit closer to the feet, which it is. We also have Shift F also have an opening in there that we don't really want after using the Dynamash. So I need to delete that. Okay, so delete hidden. Okay, I always prefer to have this separated. So I want to kind of do a zero match for this now, just to have a base that we cannot kind of start sculpting details on. But this feels like a good base for me already. I can actually use this. But I want to kind of separate this out. I'm just kind of separate this out so that zero match should do a better job when this is kind of hollow. So I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to duplicate this. So I'll duplicate this. So I'll just do a duplicate for this boot base. I think I'm going to do two duplicates. So I'll leave this as my main duplicate in case anything goes wrong. I can always come back to this. So let me hide that for now. Now duplicate this again. So we have two now, one for the sole and one for the top parts. So this one is going to be boot sole. Let me just rename this so I can keep track of things. Okay. So with that done now, I'm just going to control click on this, and I'm going to do a delete hidden on this. Then I will hide that. Click on this part. I'll just do the inverse of that. Control click, shift, control shift, click on this, and I will do a delete hidden geometry, delete hidden on this. Okay, this is fine. So let me work on this first. Let me kind of get a base mesh from this to be by zero meshing this. So before I do that, I need to come up to the formation tab. Make sure this dot is turned off. Then kind of do a polish on this. Let me undo that. Let me undo that again. It's kind of eating into the overall proportion of the boot. So I'll just kind of max out just this lower parts. Let me kind of do more precise maxing on that, like so. Invert the selection, then I can actually polish this now just to tighten up those edges. Seems to be eating it too much. Let's try this polish crisp edge. No, not really, it's not working properly. Let me blow up this. No. I think this one does a better job for us. Okay. Then maybe with the scale tool, I can just scale this back out like so. Yeah, perfect. This will be fine. This will work just fine. So now I can freely and comfortably, maybe this part, let me just go out of isolation mode. Transparency. Let me see where this. I'm checking the overall proportion of the shape. I guess I need to push this down a bit more. So using the move topological brush, let me push this down a bit more. Now I have an issue here, so let's just fix this quickly. Just push this out to fix that quickly. Probably even push this inwards a bit more. Like so. And this part, I need to push this part inwards like so, so it should be fine. Okay. I think this should be fine now. Once I zero match this now, I can make more bigger changes to this. Maybe even this under part feels way too high, way too low. Let me kind of max this out. Invert the selection. I'll use this. And blow out the selection a bit more. Maybe even raise this a bit higher, like so. That's somewhere around here should be fine. We just do a tiny polish by group. Yeah, I think now I can just do a zero match for this. This angle still is still bugging me. Let me just see if I can fix this. That's way too intense. Just smooth that out. Trying to eliminate most of those sharp corners we have in there. Try to make those sharp corners a bit more rounded. Okay. Okay, so now I can actually use the zero marshal now. So the zero marshal turned on. Take down this adaptive size and take it down. Maybe take it down all the way to 0. Detect edge, keep crease, keep poly group. No, let me just, I really have one poly group in here, so let me just at 5k. Let's try this at 5k. So I'm going to hold Alt and then click on zero mesh. Okay. So I'm going to go half of this. Hold Alt and do zero mesh for this. Let me use same. Hold Alt and zero mesh this. Yeah, I'm trying to eliminate this issue right in there, so this is fine. So I'm going to put this on half again. Hold Alt and zero mesh this. Now we have a bit of an unevenness on the topology. Let me undo that. Let me try this all the way to 100. Let me see what that gives us. Definitely not. Hold Alt and zero mesh. Just trying to get topology that feels evenly spaced out. This seems fine. I need to kind of fix this though. So BZM. Just kind of move this in place. Trying to average in between those sizing of that, just to have them close enough, like so. Do this also in here. Try to okay. Trying to average out the spacing for those quads. I think this should be fine. I'll take down the brush size and try to average this out also. There's too much spacing in here. Okay. I think this should be fine. I'll just leave this as it is.